Welcome to part 2 of our MoveWell program's Mindful Movements. In this section we're going to bring in some flexibility work, stretching the key muscles, the ones that tend to get tight on most people. And we're going to use a chair for a little balance and support in this program. So our first exercise is going to be a calf stretch, calf and hip flexor stretch. If you step with your left foot to the left side of your chair, right foot is behind the midline of your chair, so your feet are still wide apart as opposed to in line. It's easier to balance that way. And we're going to press our back foot towards the ground, keeping the back knee straight and the front knee bent. We're also going to tuck the pelvis slightly in. So what I mean by tucking the pelvis is if there's a tilt in the pelvis this way, we want to tuck it this way. The reason for that is we get a really nice stretch on the hip flexor muscles here at the front. If your right foot is behind, you should feel a stretch on the right hip on the front. This is one of the key muscles in maintaining easy position on the pelvis and also taking pressure off the lumbar spine, because when these muscles get too tight, we tend to pull our pelvis forward. That creates a lot of compression here and usually results in disc problems later on. So just relaxing into the stretch, easing the heel towards the ground, feeling a stretch in the calf here and the hip flexor here. The chair is there for support if you need it, but if you don't need it, that's okay. Just have the hands either close by or resting gently. And slowly change. Same idea, right foot is to the right side of the chair, left foot is behind the midline, so your feet are offset. Gently pressing the back heel towards the ground and gently tucking the pelvis forward so that you're feeling a stretch now on the left hip flexor, the front of your left hip. The chair is there for support, so if you do need to lean on it, that's fine. But if you don't, you get a chance to build some of the strength and the stability and coordination in your legs while you do this stretch. Always remember to breathe throughout and try to feel that stability on your feet. So feel the weight of your body on your feet and sink into that, rising up tall to the ground. And change. Our next stretch is a hamstring stretch, so the back of the thigh. And again, we're going to use our chair for a little bit of support. We're coming behind, our feet are going to be about hip width apart on this one. And the idea is to have the right leg out in front with the knee straight, toes pulled up, bending the left knee so that the knees end up side by side. A nice healthy curve on our lower back, so our pelvis is rotating forward, but we're long through the spine, crown of the head rising up, and it's as if we're sitting back onto a chair. And then you feel a stretch come into the hamstring down the back of the thigh. Now the hamstring stretches can be uncomfortable because often the sciatic nerve has some adhesions to the hamstring muscles, and when we stretch the hamstring muscle, we feel that pull on the sciatic nerve. So don't force it too hard, but just get into a nice, comfortable, deep stretch. Remember to breathe, relax into it. We're not forcing here. It can even be helpful to bounce a little bit, to floss, I should say, the sciatic nerve through the hamstring. And slowly up and change. Again, the same idea, your feet are still hip width apart rather than in line, so there's a width between them. Be about 6 to 8 inches between your front heel and your back toe, and then you're sitting back into it with the front leg straight, the left leg straight, right knee is bent, bringing the knees side by side if possible, sitting down into it with a healthy spinal curve, rising up to the crown, and using the chair for a little balance or support, but not really leaning on the chair too much, if possible, if you don't need to. Remember to breathe and relax as you go. And slowly back up again. Next we're going to come to the quads, the quadricep muscles. If your balance is good enough, you can do this standing one leg. I'd usually suggest aiming to start by catching the heel of your shoe or even using a towel or a scarf to wrap around if you can't go the full way up here, if you can't catch your foot or your ankle. If you can catch the ankle, that's fine. If you're very flexible, you can even reach as far as the toes and get a good stretch that way. So pick the version of this that suits you. On the leg that's on the floor, make sure your weight is even on your heel and the toes, and use the chair just for balance or support again if you need it. It depends on your own balance levels, but they'll improve as time goes on. If this isn't an option for you at all, another way to do it is to sit onto a chair on one side, so you've got just one leg, one cheek on the chair, allow the other leg to come back behind, and if you gently lean back, you start to feel a stretch come down through the thigh muscle, or you can catch your heel from there and gently pull it up, and you get that calf stretch. So whichever version of this suits you, once you feel a stretch, you're getting some benefit. And again, you're going to aim to hold these stretches for about a minute each time. And slowly come out of it, and we'll switch over to the other side. So again, remembering the chair is there for support if you need it. If you're doing the standing version, start by maybe catching the heel of your shoe, the ankle if that's comfortable, and if you're really comfortable catching at the toes, means that you get a stretch right down through the shin muscles as well as through the thighs. And tuck the pelvis a little bit while you do this, so that gives you a nice stretch through the hip flexors as well. Rise up tall through the crown. Remember to breathe and just relax into that stretch. And slowly release. So our focus on these the stretches are going to be on the lower body for this routine, because that's where we tend to get most tight. Our mobility movements in the first exercise can help to free up the shoulders, but these muscles tend to need a little bit more of a stretch. So our last muscle that we're going to do is the TFL muscle on the side of the hip, another very important one, and one that tends to get tight on people. We start to stretch it with our sway from side to side, but this is going to be an extra stretch for these. So we've got a few options. We can start by simply pushing one hip off to the side and bending the other leg. So the side on view is there's a bend on your left leg, right leg is fully straight, and you're just pushing your hip out to the side. You might need to bring it forward a little bit to feel a good stretch on the side of your hip, so play around with that angle. Maybe you need to roll it forward and back until you feel the stretch that works best for you, and then just relax into that stretch. There's not much body weight on this right leg while you do this stretch. Most of your weight is going down this leg, and again, you can use your chair for a little support as you do that if you need it. If you feel like you can go further, you can step across into this stretch. So again, most of the weight is on this left leg while I stretch the right TFL muscle on the side. Remember to breathe, try to stay upright, relax through the body as you stretch. And slowly come out of it, and we'll switch to the other side. So again, we can start with the simpler version where you're keeping the left leg straight, right knee is bent, easing your hip off to one side, relaxing through the muscles here. There's not much body weight on this leg. Most of the weight is going to be on this leg. You can use the chair for balance or support if you need to take some of the weight off. These stretches should be comfortable. You don't really need to force them much. Just relax into the stretch each time and breathe and allow the tension to ease out. If you are comfortable and you want to step across with the right leg, you can get an extra stretch there. Relax into it. We're aiming for ease here rather than disease. So you're just finding the edge of where your stretch range is and working through that. And slowly back up again. And that's it.